Hey, what's up guys? So today I thought I'd talk a little bit about Olympus stuff, seeing as I am an Olympus shooter and I used to be an Olympus ambassador, no longer. Right, so a lot of the questions that I sometimes get via email and from various people who contact me asking me about Olympus stuff is, what about the old 4/3 lenses that Olympus used to make for their DSLRs? Are those compatible with the newer Olympus OM-D cameras? Right, so the answer to that question is yes and no. Now, yes, they are compatible with certain models, and no, they aren't really compatible with some of the lower end models. Now let me explain. So I have here the Olympus EM1, and this is the original EM1. I've got two of them. And these cameras are slightly different to the likes of the EM5 and the EM10 in that they have a dual autofocus system. So the dual autofocus system basically means that it has phase detect sensors on the sensor itself as well as your contrast detect sensors. So the phase detect sensors are the same sensors that they use in digital SLRs, but now normally in a digital SLR setup you have a complicated mirror mechanism with a prism, and those sensors are buried somewhere in the mirror box of the camera. Now in the mirrorless cameras, obviously there's no mirror box, so where do they put these sensors? And what Olympus eventually developed is they've actually embedded those sensors onto the actual imaging sensor itself. So the imaging sensor has an array, normally in a diamond shape, of phase detect sensors, and what that does is it actually allows you to use these old 4/3 lenses extremely well on these particular cameras. Now I've been using 4/3 lenses on my EM1s for quite a while, and I'll be honest with you, they work really well on the EM1. I'm going to try and demonstrate how fast these things autofocus when I finish this little segment, but basically, you know, if you've used a digital SLR like a Nikon in the past, sort of a mid-range Nikon, like the D7000, D7100, the D5000, the D300s, those kind of level cameras, the D700s, you will notice that the autofocus on an Olympus mirrorless EM1 with an older 4/3 lens is pretty much in the same ballpark. In actual fact, I would give the edge to the Olympus because it just seems to be a lot snappier with the autofocus. The autofocus is quicker. So that's the lowdown on the autofocus system with the Olympus EM1. Now the Em1 Mark II, which I unfortunately do not have, has apparently got more phase detect sensors on the sensor itself than the original EM1 does, and one of the big reasons for upgrading to the Em1 Mark II is the improved autofocus system. So just, yeah, remember that when you're looking to shop around. So the Em1 Mark I, the original camera, I think it has, let's just check it out, it has a lot of autofocus points. Not as much as you would find as in terms of, well, compared to the phase detect autofocus system, but it has a really nice diamond pattern on it, and I'll show you that in the next part of this video. The next question is, how do these lenses actually work on these cameras? Do I have to buy any additional hardware? And the answer is yes, you do. There are what Olympus calls MMF adapters. Now there are actually 3 of these, and they started off with the MMF, then there was the MMF2, and now the most recent one is the MMF3, which I have got a copy of here. So let's just get this off. Now the MMF3 is exactly the same as the MMF2, with the exception of, hang on a second, the exception being that I'm hoping that these are in focus on my iPhone over there. You may not see this immediately, but if you have a closer look around the edge of this one over here, there's a little rubber gasket, and around the edge of this one here there isn't any rubber gasket. So all that is a weatherproofing that you would get now if you were being brave enough to go out and photograph in seriously adverse conditions, like with lots of rain and stuff. So that gasket there will prevent any water ingress into the camera body once it's mounted onto your lens. Now my lenses that I have here, that I still have for the 4/3 system, I've got 4 of them. I used to have a lot more of them, and some of them I sold, probably kind of foolishly in retrospect now that I think about it. You know, some of them I should have kept because they really, really are awesome lenses. A big draw card for me for moving across to the Olympus system was the fact that there's such a huge array of top quality glass out there for the 4/3 system. When I say top quality, I mean like better than you'll find from most of the other so-called top-end manufacturers. Olympus is second to none. I would actually put them on the same sort of playing field as the Leica system. The lenses are really sharp. One of the best ones that I had was the 35-100 f2.0. So for those of you shooting with 35mm digital cameras, I won't say full frame because I'm one of the people that doesn't like that term. But basically a 35-100 on 4/3 or micro 4/3 would be the same field of view as a 70-200mm lens. But the big difference with the Olympus one is that it has an extra stop of light. So it's f2.0, not f2.8. And that lens I had, it was huge, it was massive, it was about this big. And it had this huge big hood on it. And it was incredibly sharp, really probably one of the sharpest zoom lenses I've ever had the privilege of using. The big problem with that is that it was so big that it kind of made using it on a small camera body like the EM1, even with the battery grip, kind of difficult. You know, I really do regret selling the lens, but on the other hand, you know, I didn't really have much application for it because of the size of it. It wasn't easy for me to track it around with me. So, and that particular zoom range, 35-100 mils. It's an easy, nice to use range, but it's not the greatest in terms of flexibility. So for me, having less weight to carry around on an event shoot that I would normally do is far more important to me than, you know, having that extra stop of light and that extra sharpness. I mean, the people that I'm photographing for most of the time are not concerned about sharpness and all that jazz. Right, so yeah, the other ones that I've had an 8mm fisheye, which was also massive, incredibly well-made lens. It felt like a hand grenade. Not that I've really, well, I did feel hand grenades when I was in the army, but I've never lobbed one. So yeah, I had that one. I had a 7-14mm f4, which was a massive lens as well. And the reason I have this lens to show you on here right now is this is the Olympus 9-18mm. Now this is my go-to wide-angle lens for this system. Now, you'll see just how small this lens is. It's actually collapsible. So there it goes into its camera, into its body I should say. I mean, not its camera. It goes into the body. And if you compare this lens with this one, this is the 11-22mm wide-angle lens. So this is the one that you would have had on a older 4/3 camera that Olympus used to make. Yeah, take a look at that. I mean, that's just crazy, the difference in size. And it's not a big difference in terms of the width there. Obviously 9mm on this one and 11mm on this one. So in 35mm terms, you're looking at 22 versus 18. I suppose it is a bit wider, but yeah, so why carry a thing like this around when you've got something nice and small like this, which was for me the whole reason I moved across to micro 4/3 in the first place. Okay, how do we mount these? The MMF adapter basically fits straight onto the camera. So you'll line up the red dot over there with the red dot on the camera itself. Now, I always get this wrong. There we go. So that goes on like that. And then you pick your lens and you make sure that the red dot on the lens lines up with the red dot on the inside over there. Put it on and you're ready to go. So this is the 11 to 22. I don't really use this lens a lot, mainly because I have this one. But if you're looking for bargains, and you're bound to find a lot of bargains out there for the Olympus system, I mean, you can pick up these 4/3 lenses at really good prices on the second-hand market. So I highly recommend getting them. The lens that I use the most when I'm out on safari, or even lately when I'm doing some certain event shoots that the 75 1.8 doesn't quite have the right focal range for, it's a fixed focus lens, is this one. Now this is the what is it, 50 to 200, 2.8 to 3.5. Now in 35mm terms, you're looking at a 100 to 400mm lens. Now if you consider that Canon manufacture a 100 to 400 beg your pardon, 100 to 400, I believe that it is actually a 5.6 f5.6 aperture lens. I'm not sure, I think it might actually be 5.6 to 6.3, I'd have to check up on that, but that is a whole stop and a half slower than this lens here. And this lens, let me tell you something, is one of the most amazing lenses I've ever used. You'll see just how small this is, and then once you put the adapter on it, it doesn't get that much bigger. Come on, where's my red dot? There we go. Put that on there, put that on there, and that's it. The one thing I don't like is that when you zoom, it extends and you've got that funny little skinny barrel over there. There's also a lens hood which I've left over off on the corner of the studio. But generally I find this lens is just wonderful to use. It's nice, solid, well-made lens. If you take off this unnecessary tripod ring, there we go. Take off the unnecessary tripod ring, mount it back on there, and it's nice and easy to hold, easy to use, easy to zoom. I think it's great. It's the one lens that has kind of stopped me from buying newer, what is it, 40 to 150 2.8. I've used the 40 to 150 2.8. It's a really good lens, but it's a lot of money to put out, you know, and when you can pick up a lens like this for next to nothing, why spend the money? Oh, just another thing, there are a couple of versions of this lens. The one I have here is the SWD, and that is a silent wave motor in here, or whatever the Olympus term for that is. So it focuses not as noisily as the other ones do, the older version. And I mean, I'm going to try and demonstrate this shortly, maybe try and get this outside. It's a little bit difficult to try and set this up where I have one camera focused on the back of this one and then trying to move this one and show you just how quickly the focus confirmation is actually achieved. Alright, so that's that. Yes, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that you can also get teleconverters for these lenses. Pardon me. I have here a 1.4 teleconverter, which I used on my most recent safari in, when was it? Late August, early September. And putting this teleconverter onto this lens here, let me do it pretty quickly, show you what it looks like. It looks a little bit unwieldy, but it actually isn't too bad. That out of the way. And it fits on exactly the same as the other lenses would, so you just stick it on like that, and then put this onto the teleconverter, and there you go. Yeah, so once you have it all mounted up and you've got it switched on there, you now have an extra 40% focal range, which I found quite useful on safari. And I'll be honest with you, the optical, how can I phrase this? The optical sharpness of this teleconverter is fantastic. Normally when you put a teleconverter onto any lens, you get some kind of degradation in the sharpness of the lens, and I'll be honest, with this one I have seen absolutely no degradation at all. It makes a fantastic companion to this lens, and it doesn't look too hideous, does it? No, I don't think so. Right, okay, that's about it. What else was there? Oh yeah. I do have another one here. This is the 50mm f2.0 macro lens, and I haven't really used this lens much at all. I got it this year, just before I went on safari as well. Got it at the same time as I got this one and the rest of them actually. And I haven't really used it a lot, but honestly, what I have used, the few times that I've put it on this camera, I've been quite impressed. Very, very sharp, and the autofocus is surprisingly quick for a macro lens. I've used macro lenses from a number of different manufacturers over the years, and they all focus very slowly. This one, even with the adapters on it, focuses pretty good. So give it some thought. Okay, let's get this stuff onto a test bench, and somehow let me demonstrate the swiftness of the autofocus. Okay, we're outside in my backyard at the moment, and I've been spending a few minutes trying to get this shot sorted out using 2 tripods, and hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm seeing in the back here. The idea is I just want to give you, it's tilting, you see the reflections causing me distress. Okay, so you're looking for the focus confirmation dot, that little green thing over there in the corner. So I just want to show you basically how quickly the autofocus works on this lens, provided you're putting it onto something with sufficient contrast. You should see that it works pretty well. There you go. I can't tilt it too far up or too far down, because you get the bad reflections in there. So let's just try and keep it at this level. So this staircase in front of me here is probably about say 8 or 9 meters away, and you'll see there the confirmation is on there. Now that fence over there is probably double the distance. You see it locked on pretty quickly. That's that. Okay. Also, please excuse the audio quality. I'm outside here without a microphone, and it's quite windy, as you can see. So there, I'm now using one of the bottom autofocus sensor points, and it's picking up quite quickly. And it also gives you an idea of the level of the diamond shape, or the spread of the diamond shape, for those phase detect autofocus sensors. There you go, and then go back to the center. That's it. Now if I zoom in, so that was at 50 millimeters. I'm now at 200 millimeters, and you can see just how quickly that achieves autofocus. It does hunt if you don't get on something with sufficient contrast. Yeah, so that's my neighbor's house roof in front of me. It's probably about 30-40 meters away. That's the grass. Back to the brick wall. Back to the old rusty post. Brick wall, rusty post, piece of grass, ferns, plants. I think you get the picture. So that's it. That's the 50 to 200, 2.8 to 3.5 on an EM1. And if that autofocus is not fast enough for you, well, I don't know, mate. Best get a different camera. Okay, folks, so there you have it. That's what it looks like when you autofocus with one of these old 4/3 lenses on an EM1. Not too bad, eh? I highly recommend picking these up. So if you see any lying around on the used market, snap them up. Do some research first, because there are some sort of consumer level ones that I don't really know too much about. But if you find any of the pro level ones out on your used market, definitely give them a look. Well worth the money. Definitely well worth the money. Okay, that's it for this video. It has dragged on a little bit too long. I do apologize for that, but if you did enjoy it, don't forget, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we will catch you on the next time. Oh, and before I go, Go and check out our online community, fotozones.com. That's Fotozones with an F. And we'll see you there. Until next time, adios.